Hello, you beautiful souls. Next week is Christmas, and then the week after that is New Year's. There's only 2 weeks left of 2019, which is so exciting. And I've been doing a lot of reflection lately about this decade, the 2010s, and also this past year. And as I was just meditating this morning, I started writing the lessons that I've learned. And I just wanted to share it with you before the year ended so that maybe you can do your own reflection and then just write down and journal what you've learned and what you're taking into the next decade, into the next year. Because this isn't just any New Year's, it's like the beginning of a new decade. And I realized this morning that this is the decade, the one that's coming up, where I'll be in my 40s, which is like, holy shit. Okay. So I wrote them down because I didn't want to forget them. So the first one is realizing that I'm not in control of anything. So I realized through a lot of things, a lot of instances this year, that the only thing that I can actually control is my reaction and my vibration and myself. Everything else is completely out of my control, which is both, I think, terrifying, but also kind of a relief that things happen around us that we don't know the meaning of sometimes, and things happen ultimately, I believe, for the greater good. When shitty things happen, like a death or a breakup, or when you get an illness, it's just way too complicated to say that it's karma or that it's from past lives. It's just like stuff like that is hard to explain, but I know deep in my soul that everything happens for our highest good, and it's only meant to grow us as human beings, as spiritual beings. So I also realized that in the past, overworking and overscheduling is a way that I use to control. So the first instance of when I realized that this might be an actual problem was when I was working in private equity, and my friends would always ask me, let's hang out, let's like grab a drink, and I'd be like, okay, I'm free in like 3 months, or I'm not free until X, Y, and Z, or I would try to like fit a bunch of people in like one day or one evening. And I realized that I was so afraid of the empty spaces in life and, I guess, having downtime, that I would overschedule and overbook myself. And I realize now that that was a form of control. It was a form of me controlling my time, controlling who I got to see, and I was leaving no room for spontaneity. And I realize now that you have to leave space not only for your mental, emotional, and physical and spiritual well-being, but also like allowing things to come into your life. Because if you're constantly overbooked and if you're constantly overscheduled, then you're not leaving room for magic to happen and spontaneity to happen. And now I find the opposite problem with me, where I'm afraid to commit too much. Like, I really look at my month out at a time. So right now I'm looking towards, mid-January, and seeing like what I want that space and that time to look like. What kind of energy do I want to bring into January? Which is hard because a lot of my friends have children and husbands, and some companies that I work with, they want to look out, like some of them want to look out till next summer, and I'm just like, I don't know where I'll be next summer. Like, I don't know who I'll be next summer. So it's like, it's definitely a balance for me now. It's like putting those things out there far in advance so we know it's going to happen, and then also leaving room for spontaneity. But the main point here is that I think I was overbooking myself as a form of control, and I realized that I can't actually control anything. So the second thing, which I mentioned earlier, is when shitty things happen, it's actually, there's a lesson there and you are meant to learn something, and or there's something better. So, you know, I really try to be honest with you and transparent, and so I'm gonna open up about something that happened in July. I got really excited because I was going to do a 6-week transformational program out in the Hamptons, and a lot of women were interested, but nobody actually booked. Like, nobody actually gave me the money. They just said, I'm really interested, I want to do this, which should have been like my first clue. But I don't know, I was like super pumped, I was super excited. And if there's anything that I'm confident in, is my ability to take action and do the thing, right? So I rented a little house out in the Hamptons. I frequent the Hamptons like every year with my friends, and I used to have a house there with my ex-boyfriend, so I'm very familiar with the area. And yeah, the day of that I was supposed to move in, I was with my girlfriend from college, and there was a fire in their house. And if this isn't like a sign from the universe that shit is not gonna happen, I don't know what is. And normally I would probably, you know, I probably would have freaked out and have tried to find another place, or I don't know. I think, but my mindset at the time, because I remember this very clearly, it was eclipse season too, and there was just like a lot of shit that wasn't going right, but I wasn't getting the signs. I was like, let's move forward. So the fire happened, and the person on the other end that I was renting the house from started not to be very communicative, and I don't know, it might have been a scam, but I never got my money back from that, and I never actually did the program, because nobody actually signed up, thank God, actually, because I wasn't able to stay at a house, I wasn't able to stay out there. And I definitely could have looked at that situation and been like, why am I such a failure? And at the time too, like, all of these other coaches and spiritual coaches and people who are doing programs have always been like saying, maybe not always, but the messaging is always, I made 6 figures in my first launch, or I made, you know, all this money and now that's all I do, and it's just like all this passive income. And I definitely could have looked at that, and trust me, I had one day with my girlfriend Justine, and I was like having a pity party for myself, because I was like, what the fuck, like, why can't I figure this shit out? Like, why couldn't I have I don't know, I was just blaming myself for a lot of the things. And then I realized that, you know what, this is like such a huge learning lesson for me. First of all, I think my mind was just like, I want to move out to the beach, I want to do this for women, and it'd be so cool, without properly taking steps to, you know, get deposits, get women to actually give me, send me the money, and also having a backup plan. And then also, you know, I thought about suing this person for my money back, but then I was just like, you know what, by the time I hire a lawyer and there's just all that negative energy, if this person really needed that money, then I will let that person have the money. I know this is like, it's really hard for me to even talk about, because it makes me look like a chump, but I just want to be honest and tell you everything that had been going on now that I have like more hindsight about it. And I wish I had, I guess you can't wish these things, but sometimes I wish that I would be more open when the things are happening at the time. But I honestly didn't understand any of this until just recently, when I was doing a lot of reflection, because I talk a lot about things that are happening in hindsight when I have figured them out, versus like when they're actually happening. And yeah, well, what ended up happening was this. So this was like the 4th of July weekend, or after the 4th of July weekend, and so many other amazing things happen as a result of me not being out there, out east. I went to a Kundalini yoga retreat that same month and met incredible women and deepened my spiritual practice. And that's when I started getting really clear in the messages that I was getting, fine-tuning my clairs, my psychic abilities. All these abilities started showing back up in my life. Then I went to get my Reiki masters, met my incredible teacher, Lisa Levine from Maha Rose, met incredible women, spent a week out in nature in the Catskills. Then I met all these incredible people all of July and August, and went to Burning Man. As you know, that was like a transformational trip for me. And then I got to spend almost 3 weeks with my sister in Europe. So my point in saying, when the shit happens, like when shit happens that you don't expect and you end up losing money and people betray you, and you're like, you could either do one of two things. You could hold on and be like, what the fuck, and get super angry and like focus your energy there. Or you could say, you know what, that really sucks, but at least like I learned something. And the flip side of that was like, I had all these other amazing experiences that now I'm like, I'm kind of glad that didn't work out, because all of these other things happened for me, and super grateful. And I honestly don't know where I would be now if the Hamptons retreat thing would have worked out. So I'm so glad that I'm able to share this with you now, because for a little while I was like, I'm such an idiot, why did I do that? But you know, you live and you learn. And going back to my point about comparing yourself, which is one of the points here, is that not everyone has six-figure launches, and not everyone has these like ginormous like online businesses, and that's 100% okay. Because if at least one person hears your message, that needs your message, that needs your special sauce, then that person, it creates a ripple effect. And that ripple effect, I think it's also called the butterfly effect. That person will impact one person, that person will impact another person, and it just kind of spreads, you know? So for my first course that I taught this year, I launched it in, I think, February of 2019. I got like, I would say less than 10 people who took the course, and I never beat myself up about that. I never said, why is there only 10 people? Why is it not six figures? First of all, if you're doing it for money, then you're definitely doing it for the wrong reasons. That's number one. Number two, that's 10 people that I impacted this year. That's 10 people who I still keep in touch with them, are living their best lives right now. And not only because of me, but they took the initiative to learn something that I learned through my journey and have put it into practice. So unfortunately, with Instagram and social media and all of these like ads that they, you know, and I'm guilty because I, you know, want to get my message out there too, but there's this heavy focus on making money and numbers versus like actual impact. Like, who am I actually reaching? Who needs my message? And who is actually going to take action from the things that I'm teaching you? So the third point is 0 fucks. And this has taken me a long time, and actually I hear this is like a common theme for everybody, is not giving a fuck what anybody thinks. And it's easier said than done, right? Like, if I was in my position, which I had been in the past, like I would say in 2013, my breakup, I didn't have a full-time job, I didn't have a place to live, I didn't have any money. Out of my ego, I was like, I have to prove him wrong. So got a full-time job, lived in the city, spent all my money on finding myself an apartment. And I think now it's different because I'm literally not coming from a place of ego. My parents offered help, I said yes. I've also healed my relationship with the home I grew up in, and also with my parents. So it was like a win-win for all of us. And yeah, I could definitely dwell on the fact that I'm 37 years old, I'm single, I have no kids, I have no mortgage, and all of the stuff that I own could probably fit in a backpack, but I don't see it that way, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I don't feel like my life is empty. I've actually never felt happier. I've actually never felt this happy in my entire life, and it's only because I love myself and that I'm not living anybody else's life, and I'm only living for me, and I don't really care what anybody thinks. And I know from the outside looking in, and I could just hear like my, you know, Korean relatives being like, what is wrong with her? Like, why can't she find a husband? I just choose to not feed into that. I just choose not to listen, and I choose not to get sucked back into that toxic negative thinking, because I have already done that. I have already followed the plan, quote unquote, of what people says will give you happiness and give you contentment, and that all of that shit is such a lie. It's a lie. You have to find home within yourself. You have to find love within yourself. You have to find all of it within yourself, and whatever it takes, you have to do. So I said to myself last year, whatever it takes for me to find what it is that I'm looking for, what it is that I'm teaching, and then share it with others. Number 4 is related to the 0 fucks, which is stop comparing yourself. Definitely easier said than done, and I did a video about this when I changed my mindset about Instagram, because you can definitely get bogged down by comparing yourself to others. There are definitely many spiritual teachers, spiritual coaches, life coaches on Instagram and out there who are fucking killing it, and I could definitely spend my time being like, why don't I have that many clients? Why can't I have that many followers? Why can't I have that many whatever, X, Y, and Z? But I think this has been obviously like a work in progress, and I think definitely limiting my time on social media has helped tremendously. And for a little while, I didn't follow any other coaches or spiritual teachers for a while, because I was like, I really need to focus on myself, which is totally fine. And then just realizing, like, having this aha moment that there is nobody like you, like me. We are each so unique in our DNA, in our personality, in how we were raised even. I mean, I'm a Korean American New Yorker who happens to have worked in corporate America, and now I'm a spiritual coach. Like, I don't know anybody like that. So just recognizing that you're unique and that you have a special gift and you have a special way of conveying a message. And ultimately, I believe we all have the same purpose. I believe we're here to share our gifts and to inspire and help somebody, whether that's in the form of singing or coaching or teaching or whatever your gift, however your gift comes out. It's like, yeah, it can be a tough world out there when there are all of these like bombardments of what you're not doing. But I would say the biggest thing that's helped me in this arena has been spending less time on Instagram and spending less time on looking at what other people are doing, and just focusing on what I'm doing and focusing on my own self-study. So that's a huge one. Stop comparing yourself. The next one is, it's all an inner journey. Everything in your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. So once I started to not compare myself, not give fucks, realize that nothing is in my control, and that when shitty things happen, there's a lesson, and not play the victim. And there's a bunch of other things on this list that I'll get to. Once I realized all those things, and I realized that everything in my outer world is 100% a reflection of my inner world. And if you don't understand what that means, I think I mean, I try to say it in a way that people can understand on Instagram. It's like when I am vibrating super, super high and I just feel so good and I've found that sweet spot of like, I'm worthy, I love myself, I love this world, I love this planet, such a beautiful day. Everything in my day is magical. Everything in my day just flows easily and flows naturally. And then when something does come into my day that might be a trigger, I don't react in the same way. I'm not like on edge. And I think that this has been a result of my daily spiritual practice, and I definitely recommend, actually, now that I think about it, I should actually walk you through my spiritual practice so you get inspired to start your own. So like in the morning when I wake up, I try not to look at my phone. I'm still human, sometimes I get curious, but I literally plop down on my little sheepskin rug here and I'll write in my journal and I'll start my meditation practice. I'll do some Kundalini yoga, and then because I've also given myself that time, I just feel super, super good. I feel super high vibrational, and I'm not reacting, because I used to just wake up in the morning, shoot some espresso, and then go about my day, and then everything was triggering me, and I was just like so angry all the time. So yeah, there's definitely more examples I can give you of how your inner world reflects your outer world. Or wait, is it your outer world reflects your inner world? It's just also like, everyone's been talking about manifestation lately, and I think it's great because we are creators. We are ultimately here to make shit happen, create a beautiful life for ourselves. But I think the messaging got lost a little bit when it was all about things and not actually like being a good human. I find that the less I focus on the things that I want, like X amount of dollars or a husband or a mansion, and I just work on being like more the being a good human, then all of those things just come naturally to me. Like, it's really hard to explain, but when I'm just like a nice human and I'm nice to somebody, it's like that saying, you get more bees with honey, then people just like give me things for free. People want to take me out to lunch, take me out for coffee. So I think it has to be more about the being, like being a good human, being a human of service. Like, for instance, like if you do want $1 million and you're manifesting $1 million, like what do you actually want to do with that $1 million? Is it for yourself? Is it for your ego-driven human needs, like you want to drive a fancy car? Or is it because you actually want to help people, like have money to sustain a business where you're sharing and you're creating and you're helping? And I'm not knocking down human things like cars and jewelry and clothes, because we're human and we're here on this human plane to have cool things, but also balancing that with, okay, how are you actually like of service, of helping people? So that's number 5. Number 6, listen, see the signs, and you can only do that by slowing down and creating space. So so this is so interesting because I have never been really good at this, and this is like my lifelong mission, is to slow down, to find quiet, be by myself so I can listen. And what are we listening for? We're listening to our intuition, we're listening to our guides, we're listening to that like message that we get to know what to do. So for example, in the morning during my spiritual practice, I'll always ask these questions. How can I be of service? What is the message for today? And this is like how I like think up the videos I'm gonna do or the Instagram posts that I'm gonna write. It's really like I'm tapping into a collective consciousness. Like, what does my community and like the collective consciousness of the people that are looking at my message, like what do they need to hear? So I tap into that by sitting still, slowing down, and listening, and I'll get a message, and then I'll somehow match that with a photo, and then I'll write that in the caption, or I'll create a video like this. So I didn't even realize that like this was what needed to happen, because my entire life I'm an Aries, so I'm a doer, and I'm just like, I like to hustle. Like that energy is very addictive to me. So slowing down and being quiet and being alone, which is like very counterintuitive to me because I'm an extrovert and I get energy from other people, it really took a while to practice this, but now I'm kind of addicted, because like I'm like, okay, what else are they gonna tell me? What else am I gonna learn, you know? And I think I realized the importance of this when I quit my job in 2017, because like I'd never had that much time off to myself since like college. So once I started creating space for myself and time and going slower, and like moving out of the city has really helped with that too. I don't know, just like when you create space, like things and people and opportunities start coming in, and you can just hear more. And right now I'm trying to work on all of my clairs. If you don't know what a clair is, it's like clairaudient, claircognizant, clairvoyant. And I've always had them, but they were always like kind of one-off situations when I would really be like tapped into something. But now I'm just trying to, you know, develop these skills so that I can help other people. Because how cool is it if you can hear and see and feel things beyond our human senses? Like, I think that's so freaking cool. So, oh, the two stories that I want to share really quick about listening and seeing the signs, because from what I understand, and I'm not like an expert on angels, but they are sending you signs and signals all the time. It's just because we're so busy and because we're so distracted. Like if I ever go to the city and I look at, you know, when I'm riding the subway and I look around, everyone has either their headphones on or something, or they're distracting themselves with something. And I'm guilty of that too, because I'm always like, if I could just sit on the subway, I could listen to a podcast. But now I'm like more aware that maybe I should just listen and see what's around me. And they will always show you what you are ready to learn, and also they will show you something that you will understand. So for me in November, I was constantly seeing 1-1, 1-1-1, 1-1-1-1-1, and that's why I thought like the full moon 11-11 was like such a magical thing, because I had been seeing those numbers all month. And then this month has been 44, like constantly, like randomly, just 44 everywhere, and 8s and 7s. And it's literally the angels are telling you, pay attention to this, or we're supporting you, or watch what you're thinking because it's manifesting quickly. So for me, I think 1-1-1 was them telling me, hey, you can't think negatively because everything's manifesting at a rapid rate. So one of the stories that I want to share is actually happened in Costa Rica. A lot of you know that I've tried psychedelic drugs in the past 2 years, and the one in particular in Byron Bay was the beginning of my spiritual awakening. But anyway, this past February, I went to the Envision Festival with a couple of friends, and I did a couple of psilocybin mushrooms, which was magical. But anyway, I'm not advocating psychedelic drugs, FYI. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. I'm just sharing with you my story, and psilocybin mushrooms are legal in Costa Rica. So anyway, I was like, I took a lot of it, and then I went to the ocean by myself, and I don't know how I didn't get sunburned. I think it was like literally one of my angels looking out for my skin, because I was literally in the water for like 2 hours straight. And I was communicating with the water, and I was saying like, I really want to move to Costa Rica. I want to, I want this to be my everyday life. Like, I want to wake up, do yoga, I want to do plant medicines, I want to help people, I want to be in the ocean, I want to surf. This is like my dream life. So it's like, you know, kind of doing something like this, like harnessing the water energy. And what the spirits told me was that the reason why I was specifically born in New York City was to help New Yorkers, and that every time I want to travel somewhere, they will always make it happen. They will always make it be very easy for me to do so, but my actual mission is to help serve New Yorkers who were like me, who were burnt out, lost, and they're gonna go through this huge awakening in a couple of years. So you gotta get ready, you gotta go back, and you gotta learn stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, this was like such a huge message that I got. And I was like, okay, I got it. So I went back and found my friends, and they were just like hanging out. I was like, you'll never believe what the mushrooms told me. And they were like, that's so cool. Anyway, so that was one of the messages that I got in February in Costa Rica. And also, you could get messages by going into a higher consciousness state by doing breath work and Kundalini yoga. You don't have to do psilocybin mushrooms to get to this point, because I've gotten tons and tons of messages without substances. So the second story I want to tell you is, like, I've tried to move to LA maybe 3 times now, and I've spent a great deal of time there, like one month at a time. This last March to April, I spent a month there. And obviously, like, for somebody like me who's spiritual and who loves nature and who loves sunshine, LA is like the obvious choice. So I was like, maybe I'm meant to be there with my people, with my spiritual people, because the consciousness is just like higher out there than it is in New York. Well, at least I thought at the time. And so I went out there from March to April, and I stayed with my good friend in Venice Beach and spent time with my sister and other friends. And it's just like so convenient because like everyone is out there, right? And I'll never forget this because it was such a horrific feeling that I had after my cousin's wedding in Ojai. I also like get the boozy blues sometimes. It's when you like drink a lot and then the next day you get really super depressed. I had that. I had like the best freaking time at my cousin's wedding, was drinking all this beautiful wine, and then the next day I was just feeling so shitty about myself. And I was just like in this horrible, horrible funk that I had not felt since the depression of 2014 to 2016. So I was like really thrown off by it. So my sister and I went to brunch, and she was actually going back to New York the next day, and I was staying in LA. I didn't have a return home ticket yet because I was gonna stay for another month. And I was just like hysterically crying, and I was just like, I don't feel right. Like, I feel so ungrounded here every time I come here. Like, I don't feel like, and I've never been homesick ever. Like, I've studied abroad, lived in Spain for 6 months, spent like a month in Korea with my family, months and months away from home, and never have I ever felt this homesick in my entire life. And this is freaking LA, right? So I'm just like crying, and I'm telling my sister, I'm like, I feel so weird. Like, I feel so horrible. I feel so ungrounded. I don't know what the fuck is up. Maybe it's the alcohol. Maybe it's like here. Maybe it's like, I don't know why every time I come to LA, I feel this like I'm not supposed to be there. So I went home, I went to my friend's apartment, and I just like sat with myself and I listened. And it was the fact that I wasn't meant to live there. I was meant to go back to New York to help New Yorkers. So I bought my ticket home that day, and I realized, like, you might think that you want to live somewhere, and you might think because of like rational reasons, like I'm meant to be in LA, or I'm meant to be in Bali, or I'm meant to be in Costa Rica doing this kind of work. But actually, those places are already so spiritual, and there's so many other spiritual teachers there that as a spiritual teacher helping people awaken, like I'm actually not going to be needed as much there as I am in New York, because people in New York need this so much more, right? So then I was like, ugh, I guess I'll go back to New York. No, honestly, like I love New York. It's my home. It's just, you know, I want to be more in nature, which I'm making my life more conducive to that. So my whole point in telling these two stories is that you get messages all the time, and you just have to listen to them, because your soul, the spirit guides, everyone, the universe is leading you in the right direction. And like, since being back home in New York, like my entire career has opened up for me. And that just happened 6 months ago of this year, March and April of this year. So like, it just took me realizing that I'm meant to be here, I'm meant to meet people here. And then the second big message that I got after that was to keep like meeting people in New York, keep opening up my network, collaboration, and literally like the floodgates opened up. So number 7, you can not only connect the dots looking back at the time, you're like, why God, why? Oh, I read that. I wrote that note to myself. So have you ever heard of that Steve Jobs quote that said, like, you can never connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back? And that's so true. Because like, I remember December of 2007, when I just moved back to New York. I was trying to find a job doing organizational psychology, the degree that I got in, but that was like at the beginning of the meltdown, and I was finding no jobs. So I worked as a recruiter at Macy's in my town, and I was getting paid $7.25. And at the time, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I just spent 60 grand, maybe even more, going to freaking grad school, getting my master's in organizational psychology. I'm kind of doing like what is in my field, like recruiting, but it wasn't like the fancy HR department recruiting. It was like literally going out on the floor and asking people if they wanted jobs at Macy's and like taking down their information right there. I was like, what is my life? Why am I doing this? But now, having hindsight, looking back, being able to connect the dots, looking back and reflecting, that job really did help me, not only for my entire life up to this point, but helping me in my next job. And just not being afraid to go up to complete strangers and asking them for something, asking them to do something for you. And trust me, like, I got rejected all the time. I would say like for every 10 people I approached, maybe 2 people would say yes. But it really did take me out of my comfort zone to talk to strangers, to listen to like their stories, like why they wanted an extra job. Most of these people that signed up it was their second job. And also so humbling, like going from like getting your master's to then making like $7.25 an hour. I was like, I fucking have to grind, man. I have to like, you know, get some experience here. So it really is like, it really is that saying, like, you have to follow the breadcrumbs and never give up. But also at the time, even maybe one of you is experiencing now, you're like, what is my life? Why is this happening? What am I doing? Why do I have this crazy job? Why do I have this crazy boss? Why am I doing this? I would say that one day it's going to make sense. Not right now, but in the future, this experience is going to help you, and every experience is not wasted, basically. I could go on a whole hour about the shitty jobs that I've had and how little I made. Sometimes I would do things for free, but all of those experiences has prepared me for today and not being afraid to do anything. Okay, so number 8, which another really big lesson, the more I rest and take care of myself, the more happens. So I have a very recent example of this. I don't like to rest. I find it a waste of time, to be quite honest with you. I like to take every moment of my day and fill it with something that's going to help me learn, help me meet somebody. But that also goes with, like, I really need to slow down and make space for myself. And like I said, it's a work in progress. But just recently, I got really, really burnt out again. It's like the story of my life. It's like I don't know how to rest, so I get burnt out and I feel shitty, and then I feel shame and guilt about it because then I'm like laying in my bed not doing anything. So I was starting to feel not so good last week because I wasn't resting. I was doing like a bunch of meetings, events, Reiki, and videos and editing and blah blah blah, and I wasn't giving myself enough time to just chill. So I was feeling kind of shitty. So I said to myself, I'm going to take one day to do absolutely nothing. I'm just going to lie in my bed and I'm going to watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, because that show just gives me so much joy. And I was like, you know, like at first I was pretty nervous because I was like, oh my God, I have to do my podcast. I have to find X, Y, and Z. I have to learn blah, 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 my like old time scripting. But then I was like, no, I'm just not going to do anything. And I'm just going to enjoy the show and have fun with myself. So lo and behold, the next day, I look in my emails, I look on my DMs, and I got two new Reiki clients and a company that wanted to work with me at an event without me even having to do anything. Did I have to do stuff in like previously? Yes, like my message is out there, everyone knows what I'm about, I've worked on that, but this just showed me the value of taking time to rest, because when you rest and take care of yourself, all the things come in because your vibration is high and you're living in a place of joy and peace and love. And it's like, again, Laura, why don't you get your own lessons? The more I can make myself high vibrational and coming from a place of joy and love versus burnt out, desperate, and like barely making it by, everything just like comes so easily without me even having to like cold email, without me even having to like do research or anything. These things, these opportunities just came into my awareness, which is like so amazing. So I'm really like, the next 2 weeks of the rest of December, I've actually cleared my calendar to just rest and enjoy the holiday season with my family. My sister's coming home tomorrow, yay! And just having fun and watching a bunch of Christmas movies and listening to a bunch of Christmas songs, making cookies and doing all the things that I love, because it's like almost a game now. It's like the more I rest, like let's see what else comes in. Let's like, the more space I create, let's see what else like comes into my magnetized zone. Okay, so number 9. The more I believe in magic and open my heart, the more cool shit happens to me. So I love, it's a Yogi Bhajan quote. It's, I don't believe in miracles, I rely on them, or something like that. And then what Dr. Wayne Dyer's quote, you'll see it when you believe it, not you'll see it then you believe it. Wait, hold on. You will see it when you believe it, not the other way around. Because it's usually like people will believe it when they see it, but that's not how that shit works. The more you believe, like, oh, what is that movie, that Christmas movie that I just recently watched last year? The Polar Express. It's like Santa lost his energy because nobody believed in him anymore. And so nobody was seeing Santa because his energy was so low. So the more you believe, the more you will see. And this 100% I believe in. Like, I think I've always been one of those people that believes in angels and spirits and astrology, and I've always just been like we don't know. I don't know anything for sure. So because of that, I always see things that my other friends or my other family members don't see, because I think like once we don't believe, like our perception and our hearts are closed, so we like don't allow them to come to us. But I'm telling you, and I couldn't think of any like examples off the top of my head, but shit just happens to me all the time that's just like miraculous, and I have no explanation for them because I believe in miracles. So number 10, which is the last lesson of this year, which is kind of like the biggest lesson I've learned this year. I saved it for last, which is patience. And I think it was 2017, my sister and I went on a 3-month trip to Southeast Asia, and she is like, she's a Virgo, so she's like earth energy. She's also a Capricorn rising, so another earth energy, and she's like super calm. She's super patient. She's like so patient. It like just, it boggles my mind because I'm super not patient. I'm an Aries and a Sag rising and Aquarius moon. It's like fire and wind, and it's fire and air, and it's like I just like to get shit done quickly. I like to do things quickly, except have sex. I like to do things like very efficiently and move on. My sister is like the opposite. She's like, let's wait for the perfect shot when everybody is out of your frame. And I'm like, instead of that, I'm always like, get out of the fucking frame. I've been known to yell at people in the past. But I think this is where the topic came up, because we would go to these amazing places, and at the time, like, I was obsessed with like the travel photography, and I'd set up the shot perfectly, like the lighting, the setting, and then a motherfucker would like come right behind me, and I'd be like, excuse me. But my sister would always be like, Laura, you're so impatient, just wait, he'll like move out of there. And I realized that there are definitely, actually everything in life that is worth waiting for is worth waiting for, especially the perfect shot, because I realized that I just didn't have any patience, and because of that I would move on too quickly, or I would give up, or I would like exit left, and I wasn't waiting around, and I wasn't patient enough to wait for the reward, the like good thing at the end of the tunnel. And just watching my sister, who's like the opposite of me in every single way, she inspires me to be more patient and just wait. Like, wait, Laura, what's the problem? But I'm still working on this too, because it's like, it's easier said than done. I'm not patient at all. I'm like, where is my thing now? But something that one of my teachers told me was that you can't expect to eat the fruit if you just planted the seed. And there's seasons to life. There's a rhythm and flow and a cycle to everything. You can't expect everything at once, and you have to like be patient for the thing to actually, because it's kind of like when you this is me, it's when you open an unripe avocado, like how disappointing is that? So if I had just waited like a couple of days, it would have been like smooth and creamy, but instead I decided to open that thing early, and then you can't even use it. So I know that's a silly analogy, but man, patience is hard, because again, with this like fast economy, this like technologies, everything feels like it's moving at a very rapid pace, and I honestly feel like if I don't do it fast, then I'm missing out on something. But I realize that everything has a cycle. I think also staying in New York during the winter time has been so healing for me to slow down, and like the darkness has made me like kind of like not want to do a lot of stuff, and just making me more patient, and realizing like, hey, there are seasons. Like the winter time is a beautiful time to stay indoors, to reflect, to create art since we're inside, and it's like it's a great time to just rest and remember that like not everything has to be like 100% like go 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 go. So that's it. those were the 10 lessons I learned in 2019. It's been such a transformative year for me. I can say with equal parts love and like I don't want to say hate because I don't like that word, but I guess like this year has been really, really tough on me, but also like so many wonderful things have happened. So like 50% like I'm so ready for the next decade and year, and then 50% like, oh, that was like such a fun time, beautiful time, so much growth. And I'm so freaking excited for what's to come next year, because I could feel this like so much energy building, and I'm preparing myself to learn more and just show up in a bigger way. And my fears and my doubts and my limiting beliefs are kind of like on the wayside now, thank God. Like sometimes I'm like so amazed by how short my journey, my spiritual journey has been, even though I think it's been over the course of 37 years. It's really been these last 2 years that everything has accelerated. And I think my advice for you is like continue to learn, continue to seek knowledge, ask for help, find your community, find your healers, find your teachers, and you will be like the best version of yourself, and your dreams will come true. Thank you so much. Happy Christmas, Merry everything, Happy New Year. Sat Nam.